Happy New Year. Welcome to 2022. And thank you for checking out the Christie Taylor Show here inside the Taylor Tilton Hour. Super excited to have you today. And to start off this amazing year, I needed to go to New York. Yes, I had to go. I had to do it, ladies and gentlemen. And because my first love is music, this is a perfect way to start 2022. And that's with an amazing musician. And we're talking about Carolee Rainey, singer-songwriter, hailing from New York City. Singer-songwriter Carolee Rainey has released The Wild Concert, a 7-song audio and video compilation of 5 brand new original singles and 2 cover tunes that was filmed as a virtual concert during the pandemic in 2021. Now, Carolee's original hit single, Anchor, speaks to the human frailty we all sink into from time to time, whether it's our own vulnerability that we're facing or someone else we love who's also suffering. Now, the Wild Concert is also a satirical nod to doing something wild during a very oppressed pandemic when being free and wild is anything but free and wild. Now, Carolee, who recently opened for 5 for Fighting in Hartford, captures your attention and uplifts audiences with her soulful and passionate music that speaks to audiences. Now, there's a deep-seated theme that gently runs through all of her songs, and that theme dives into the darkest realms of the human spirit, then subsequently encourages us to hang in, hold on, and challenge fear as though we were our own knights in shining armor. I love that. Now, being able to tap into that strength that calls to us in those times when we have no one else to call upon, Carolee believes that it's that kind of strength that gives us our hopes and sustains our dreams. And thank you, Carolee Rainey, for being my first guest of 2022. And I'm excited. Oh, first of all, I love your stonework. Oh, wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Now, you're in upstate or in New York City? I know you're in New York. So are you hailing from New York City now? But with that type of decor, I can't imagine that being in the city.
No, you are absolutely right. I am in New York State.
Wow. So give me a little bit of information about you as Carolee Rainey, the person, and what made you fall in love with music.
Well, okay, a long time ago, I was, really when I was a teenager, I was very involved in music, and I played a lot of bars and hotels and cruise ships, and I had a record deal, and I went out west to California and lived there for a while. And then through a series of events, I changed direction and just wanted to become a painter, and I wanted to raise a family, and I decided to not do music anymore. And I thought it was literally out of my life forever, and the extent of my music was just to sing lullabies to my children. And then honestly, it was one of those miracle events that happened in my life when I happened to get back into music, and we sort of made up, and now we're really the closest of friends.
I like the way that you explain your creative journey. First of all, oftentimes when we're young and we have those aspirations, it's great that you actually pursued it, had a career in it, and then made another creative choice. And is that some of your artwork behind you? Because you said you dedicated yourself to a season of being an artist.
Absolutely. Yeah. These are a couple pieces that I did. And, it was such a lovely thing to be able to do while I was raising young children, because, when they woke up from nap time, I could be there, just put down the paintbrush, and I could take them to their doctor's appointments and to their little, classes. And I always just wanted to be a real hands-on mom. That was incredibly important to me. And so being a painter and allowed me that incredible freedom.
Your inspiration to me, as you say, the different chapters of our lives. And tell me this, I hear that motherhood is important to you. So during your mothering years, how many children did you end up having?
Well, I had 2 humans and 2 furries. I had 4 kids.
I love that. I love that. So, are you originally from New York, and then you went west, and then you came back east? Is that how your storyline goes?
Pretty much. I mean, my earliest years were basically out of New Jersey, and then grew up there and went out west to California. Sort of did every parent's worst nightmare, was kind of hop on a train with a suitcase and a guitar and said, "See you later," and and a bunch of different things happened out there, and it's a miracle that I'm here to tell the story. Let's put it that way.
Whoa. So okay, now your musical genre, it sounds like you were a little bit of, rock is important to you. But kind of give me an understanding of your musical journey from a little girl and what fostered the style that you've, as you say, you've made a good relationship with now in your second half.
Yeah. Well, I would say that there were so many role models and mentors musically along my journey, along my way, that just made such a deep impression. Sometimes, when you have deep seated thoughts and feelings and you don't necessarily have a particular person to talk to, you live inside that song that you're listening to on the radio or on your record. And it has a place in your heart and it stays with you for years. So maybe you don't hear a song for a while, and then a few years later you hear it and you remember exactly what you were eating, where you were, what you were smelling, who you were with. And it's incredible the legacy these songs leave to us.
Yeah. What were some of those songs in your early life?
Well, I have to say that in my earliest life, my parents used to play a lot of Motown. And I was incredibly grateful for that because it felt so soulful. And we were not a family that grew up in the church. And to tell you the honest truth, I was I grew up feeling envious of people that went to church with big gospel choirs because I thought they were the be all and the end all of music. And, I wanted to just memorize and live inside their voices. And I was always trying to figure out how did they get that note or how does it feel that deep? And I just thought it was such an inspiration. Yeah.
You know, I love the fact you say growing up Motown, and so that, of course, that kind of dates both of us a little bit. And talking about that type of soul, I know one particular songwriter, because you're a singer and a songwriter, is Smokey Robinson, and we know the layers that he approached when he was writing these hit songs. Of course, as a writer, what was some of the things that you yourself, like when you have to pen that song to evoke those emotions? Kind of give me your process on that.
Do you mean like how I go about writing a song?
Exactly, your process.
Well, it's really interesting, Christy. I mean, I for the last couple of years especially, it's almost like there was a ongoing waterfall in my soul. And for some reason, that waterfall loves the 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. hour when you're fast asleep. And it goes, babe, you got to wake up because I have a tune. And if you don't write it down, you're not going to remember it. Well, a lot of times I would say to myself, what? You're here again? Like I'm stirring in bed and I'm thinking, oh, I'll remember that. That's a good tune. I'll remember that when I wake up. And of course I don't. And I yelled at myself enough times where I started putting my phone voice memo next to the bed. And recording every word or every melody, no matter how awful it sounded. At 3 or 4 in the morning, I would just hum it, sing it, and then it would be there for me in the morning, and I could either continue the song or not. But I have found, there are some people that can just write lyrics and some people that can just write music. And I wish actually that was my process, but my process, and also to write with other people.
Yeah.
I'm so way out in the boonies where I am up here in New York State that I came to terms with the fact that I'm just going to write a lot of songs by myself for the time being. until I welcome a whole new crowd of songwriters to join me, which is on its way. But yeah, I do the music and the lyrics at the same time.
Mhm. So do you play an instrument, or is it, because I'm a singer songwriter too from way back in the day. Music was my first love, as I said, which is,
Wow.
and I just hear the melody in my head and I just sing it. And like yourself, I had to record it and write down and pin the words. But I could never, well, I took a few little piano classes. But did you also incorporate instrumentation into your song crafting?
Yeah, I play piano and guitar.
Okay, so then you actually can fully develop the instrumentation side of it too, past the melody in your head. Yeah.
Well, what's really interesting is, you know, you're an artist and I'm an artist, and it's all on emotion. For me, it's very emotional. It's a lot more emotional than it is intellectual, because intellectual, if my head gets in the way of my heart, then I'm messed up. But, I might have a conversation with someone that really moves me deeply, and um, it might make me hear a certain melody in my head, the way the conversation went. And so I'll pick up the guitar or I'll sit at the piano, and I'll have to find chords that that fit in with the conversation I had, whether it's happy, sad, deep, funny, whatever it is. And the melody must match, the mood I'm in regarding what I'm about to say.
Hmm. I'm thinking, for you to be in LA with that type of headspace, what you had to have been in LA in the 80s and 90s?
90s, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, what was the strong musical style you were into in the 90s? Because of course, music has changed so much in the last, as we've entered this new century.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your musical style when you were in that professional stage of life?
What was my style? I would say that, I was always drawn to the singer-songwriter, to the acoustic singer-songwriter. It always seemed to be so raw. So someone like Mark Cohn, for example,
Okay.
Walking into Memphis, True Companion, those songs just hit a core in my soul. And I could, Jewel, I thought,
Yeah.
here's a young gal out of Alaska, who wasn't afraid of having a certain presence to anyone. She was just authentically herself, always living in her car, doing this, doing that, singing this kind of a song about this kind of subject. And I was so drawn to that incredible vulnerability, and I wanted to be that person and do that with my life.
Wow. I mean, you took me back, especially when you said Joel, because she was definitely, and of course, Alana's, she kind of, went, Alana's Morissette.
Oh yeah.
And when you say
a lot of what I'm doing on my new album, producer said resembles a bunch of Alanis Morissette.
Let's speak about the new album. First of all, what is
out right this minute, or the one I just went down to Nashville to?
Oh, wait a minute. We're working on you. Okay, no, let's talk about the wild one. Let's talk about
the Wild Concert Unplugged.
Yeah, well, speaking about, you said that, I know the one that you're working on, that we'll talk about soon, but if you're tracing, because you're basically doing a lot of reminiscent music, because the singer-songwriter, there are some good singer-songwriters in this new crop of artists, but the ones that you just mentioned were quintessential in their way they approached the rawness. And I think that the storytelling was a deeper, because a lot of people wasn't talking like that. I mean, of course, you had your Bob Dylans and, coming from that folk era and even the soul music, but the singer-songwriter category or style really did deepen in the 90s and early 2000s. Even Norah Jones, I think she was the most, if I must say, the most pop of the singer-songwriter, because she had a much slick polished approach.
Mm-hmm.
But your latest album, the Wow Concert,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about that evolution in a pandemic.
Absolutely, sure.
So, did you find yourself as you're painting, children are grown, including your other two
Well,
furry
they're
babies?
not grown; they're still growing. But
Ah, oh my goodness. Okay, okay. So, when did you start like transitioning then from your art to back into your music, and how did the Wow Concert album come together?
well, it's pretty wild. I mean, kids are still growing. They're not grown and out yet. But I think it's really interesting, Christy. I mean, basically, what happened was I had an accident and I broke my leg, and I was laying on the couch one day, and it was at a time in my life where I was I had some bad habits I wasn't exactly proud of, and I was really full-time mothering and painting. But I remember this one moment. Do you ever have like a moment in your life where it's an epiphany, and it somehow can change the course of everything forever? Well, this is what happened. I'm laying on the couch. I've got my broken leg like up on the back of the couch, and I'm sitting there eating a package of, or let's say a big bag of Oreo cookies. And I thought to myself, I looked around the room and I thought, is this my last chapter? Is this the way it goes down? I mean, I wasn't painting. I hadn't painted in 6 months.
Wow.
And kids were growing older, and I didn't know kind of like what I was going to do with my life. It was a very scary moment. I looked around and I'm like, if this is the last chapter, this is a really bad movie. Like, there is something I have to do to change it up so that when someone reads this one day, they're going to go, wow, that's really inspiring. That's a very good story. So shortly thereafter, a friend of mine took me to a Ricky Lee Jones concert, and love her music so much. But she is, to me, is the quintessential songwriter. To be quite honest, she is painting. She's like Joni Mitchell. She's like painting and writing, and glorious music all in one. It's kind of like, she's a Michelin star restaurant inside of songwriting, right?
Yes.
And so I had never seen her in concert. I knew her music very well, listened to her records and everything, but never saw her in concert. So went to her concert. It was magic. I walked in and I was completely mesmerized by her musicians and her stories. And the way she sang her songs brought me back to the church days. And it was like someone just sprinkled fairy dust on me and said, girl, this is what you need to do. You need to go home and start writing songs again. So I went home, and this time I didn't have my fear, and I didn't have confidence, but I didn't have lack of confidence. I just was going to do this no matter what happened was going to happen, because like my attitude was, well, what else am I doing? I'm not doing anything else that's so fabulous. I want to do something that moves my heart and my soul and makes me feel passionate, because life is so precious. You have to use it passionately. And that was my new rule. So I literally started working 12 hours a day on writing songs. I sat down at the piano. I don't even know how to play piano. I don't know how to play the guitar. And I just put all the strings and notes together and just went deep down into the soul and just didn't come up for air. And it's now like, I think 4.5 years later.
Wow. So I like that revival, the creative revival that you're expressing. And as women of a certain age, once you hit any age milestone, it really does cause you to do some soul reflection. And to have this conversation with you at the top of 2022, when people are setting intentions, considering their year goals or resolutions, hopefully they're hearing you about the point of passion, of adding passion back to their lives. I'm big on purpose, but make sure that in your ambition, that passion is a strong companion and interwoven in that, because at the end, we don't want to be empty. We don't want empty works. I mean, that just resonates with my soul. So 4 years have happened, and in 2021, you start working on Wild Concert, and you film it. Kind of tell me that process on this particular project.
That was incredibly exciting. I realized, I mean, this was even before vaccine. So this was, at the end of last year. And I was dying to get out and perform. And I
So
couldn't.
this is like the end of 2020 going into 2021. I understand. Okay.
No, wait, where are we now? Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I thought to myself, I had all these songs. I was writing all these songs, and I didn't know. I didn't want to make a whole big album, or no one could. Like, so many people couldn't get to the studio. So many of my musician friends couldn't join me. So I went down to the studio for one afternoon and filmed this concert, and it was amazing. It was just we did 10 songs in an afternoon. I had it filmed and performed, and 7 songs made it out of the 10, and that became the Wild Concert Unplugged. Unplugged meaning because it was COVID, I couldn't have like musician friends join me and make it more like a real record. So we sort of went back to the MTV Unplugged days. Mm-hmm. And this was sort of like my 2021, 22 rendition of MTV Unplugged, except we're way much further ahead into this new decade.
Wow. So what are some of the songs that you have on there? I know there's some covers and then you have originals. Let's talk about your song selection that made the record.
Okay. Well, the 2 covers that I have is an Ed Sheeran tune called Happier. And he's really one of my favorite songwriters today, currently. I love his songwriting style, because he just brings you right into the story and has a way of saying things you wouldn't necessarily think of, but yet you know exactly what he means.
Yeah.
I love that. And so he had this song Happier, and he does it his way. And it's always my goal, if possible, if I'm going to do a cover, to do it my way, because I think that's really important, because no one can ever do it like the original artist. So right. I'm not even going to try. I'm not going to go there so that people can say, oh, she tried to do this cover, but their cover was so much better. Well, obviously, they're the original artist. So I just like to do it my own way. And then that way I'm off the hook of being compared. Hopefully, right? So, I loved his vulnerability in that song, because that's one of my favorite themes, is the courage to be vulnerable in this life is how I believe we find our strength. Mm-hmm. And I loved that for that reason, the song Happier, and also Ricky Lee Jones' Lucky Guy, because without Ricky Lee Jones, I don't know what I would be doing. Still probably eating Oreo cookies.
Oh my goodness. In your original songs, there's one particular hit that your main single. Talk about that song and the essence of that song.
Okay. Well, to be honest actually, it's called Anchor. Mm-hmm. But from what I understand, there's another song on there. Forgive me for mentioning this. It's called Please Come Back to You. And somehow that song is really blowing up right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And supposedly it's actually becoming much bigger than Anchor. But I love both of those songs just because, mm-hmm. When I wrote them, it was almost like starting a new canvas. It was like, okay, I have a white canvas here. And if I'm going to do a landscape, am I going to start with the clouds? Am I going to start with the trees? I didn't know. I just went with what was on my mind, and some people that I loved very dearly in my life, and how their issues in their life at that time were affecting me. And I wanted to share their journey mixed with how I felt and journey it out to the world and see if anyone could resonate with what I was writing about and singing about.
Now, where can someone obtain a copy of the Wild concert? And is the actual film concert available for viewing online?
Well, the way we did it was there are several singles from the concert that you can see on YouTube. Like you can watch Lucky Guy, a song called If I Saw You Again, which is an original, Anchor, which is an original, and Happier on YouTube. Those are singles from the concert. And then the concert in full, you can absolutely get it on, Amazon Music, iTunes for sure, and also Spotify.
Congratulations. Finding your creative juices, self resurrection. I mean, I'm just so many words that I'm trying to pin from this journey that you've had in the last 4 years.
Do you mind if I just interject for one quick second? There's something I just really want to.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
You were saying earlier about, you reach a certain point in life and then you start to reflect in this and that. But I would love to just, if you don't mind, I would love to just interject with that thought and just add that it actually has nothing to do with age or like where you are in life. I really deeply believe that at any age, it's an ageless philosophy that I have. At any age or at any time in your life, I think it's really important to reflect and to ask yourself, am I living my most passionate life? Am I living my best life? You don't have to wait till a certain age to get there. You can be 15 and you can be 52. It absolutely, or 62 or 72 or 82 or 92. But as long as you're here on this earth and you're able to be living, knock on wood, a somewhat healthy life, then I feel like we all have a responsibility to ourselves to live our best life. And that has nothing to do with competing with other people. It has to do with about doing your personal best and living your best potential. And that is an ageless thing. And it has nothing to do with, oh, well, I had kids and I can do it now. Nope. You don't have to have had kids. You don't have to have been married or in a relationship or anything. You can be a teenager and have the same epiphany and change the course of your life or stay on a certain course of your life. But I do believe very deeply that no matter how bad or, feeling like you can't get up and do it or will never come true, I do believe that everybody has the power to take that moment and transform it. As we are all our own inner phoenixes, and we can all transform those sort of self-doubting moments and change our lives forever to be our best personal self.
Thank you. That was so beautiful, Carolee. Oh, I needed that. That's beautiful. Thank you. Ageless.
Yeah.
Ageless. Well, you know something, I know you're working on new music. You've been in Nashville, you came down south and all that. And if those who want to learn more about you, to find out your next musical journey, I definitely want to invite them to follow you on your social media. She's on Twitter, she's on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, you can check out her Wild concert on YouTube, as well as on, you said, iTunes or Apple Music as well. So thank you for being such a creative, inspiring guest today. And I love what you have spoken to. And it's time for us, as we move into this new year, to definitely lead from that ageless passion. That's very beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. And thank you all so much for checking out the Christie Taylor Show. Up next is Tina Tilton's The Blend here inside the Taylor Tilton Hour. Be blessed.